Welcome, welcome everybody. I've been given the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 that we are now live. Drum roll. Thank you, Reggie. So if anybody else wants to find a seat, please come forward and do so. Hey. Wanted to thank you all for being here. It's been an interesting morning. We've had our speaker here all morning asking questions and things like that. I think my favorite thing about the metaverse is that I have access to unlimited amounts of shoes. So that's the thing. And then the question we kept asking was, look, I'm hearing myself in the metaverse. The question that we were asking this morning that made me laugh was, does this pixel make me look fat? That was another thing. I think we were just going back and forth about what brands are like in the metaverse and how does it go back and forth. And there's so many questions and there's such a different language. So, but really the question is why? Why would a company whose core focus is creating retail experiences in the physical world be inviting a speaker to talk about the metaverse? Right. So even when we were thinking of the idea, we were like, okay, how does this, happen? I mean, we print massive amounts of signage. We are constantly sourcing fixtures and designing spaces and packing kits and installing it across the country. So why? Because we do those things for some of the biggest brands in retail. And guess where the customers of those big brands are going to interact? I bet you think I'm going to say the metaverse, but I'm not. I'm going to say wherever they want to. And as we've learned, the customers will interact wherever they want to go. One of those places will be the metaverse, but it won't only be the metaverse. So we've been iterating along with retail the entire time we've been in business. So we think it's just another touch point in omni-channel, right? Where we're going to see universities and colleges, we're going to see restaurants, we're going to see services, everything, big box, retail, interact. But it's not only going to be the metaverse, it's going to be with the stores as well. So you're going to have this fluidity of what the metaverse is, and it becomes this kind of omni-channel ecosystem. So it's another touch point, it's iterative. So when we're looking at it, if we were not iterating along with retail the entire time we've been in business, we'd be way behind. So some almost 60 years ago, we started with print, right? Fast forward to now, and we are just as likely to install digital signage and the content for that signage, or to use all of the R's, AR, VR, QR codes, or be developing apps. We just completed we're in the throes of completing a project for Micro Center where we reimagined their stores, but that also included an employee app and a consumer app, so they could find things, both could find things on the shelves, and both had different purposes. At SMU, so a whole different vertical, whole different environment, we took their student center from top to bottom and redid everything in it. That also included a 47-foot, if I got the measurements right, a 47-foot gesture-based interactive wall, right? And then some of the same programs and tools that are used to build things in the metaverse are the same programs and tools that we're using now. So it starts to make a lot more sense when we put it that way. So I am very, very proud and excited to introduce our speaker to talk about the metaverse, because the metaverse is squarely in the future of retail. So it's squarely in the future of our future as well. So please join me in welcoming our speaker. Her name is Professor Elizabeth Strickler. She runs the blockchain lab at Georgia State. She has won the MIT hackathon. She is a TEDx guest speaker and a leading authority on the metaverse. Here she is.
Great. Hi, everybody. I don't think I'm really going to need this. I'm just going to do my, that's right. I'm going to do my little click. Okay. Yeah. So, I'm Elizabeth Strickler, and I teach at Georgia State University, and I run the Media Entrepreneurship and Innovation program that is in the Creative Media Industries Institute at Georgia State, and I also am jointly appointed in the business school. So Just a little bit about my background so you kind of understand where I'm coming from. I got a philosophy degree and then did social work for a year and realized that I could not keep that up for very long. So I went back and was going to get a degree in math at Georgia State University so I could teach math. But then I got into the internet and got hired by MindSpring, which was an internet service provider that was still at ATDC. It was still in its sort of startup phase over at Georgia Tech. And my 19-year-old boss and I decided that they should have websites as opposed to just dial-up. And everybody at MindSpring kind of laughed at us. And so we started doing web hosting so that people could have websites and not just dial into the internet. And our first clients were Hooters and Home Depot. I mean, sorry. Sorry, I was just thinking about who all is here. Really. It sort of started with the HO. So anyway, Hooters and NASCAR. And so you can kind of see that that's sort of, porn and sports. But we had sort of a set number of web hosting that if we got a bonus. So for that year, and I was very young, I got my entire salary as a bonus. And so from then on, I'm looking for new opportunities. And so I'm seeing them now, and that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about. So then, just to add on to that a little bit, then Kodak brought their special effects, one portion of their special effects department to Atlanta because, jointly with Georgia State University and Georgia Tech. And I was hired to do that because I was really into photography. But we would scan the film. We would do special effects on the film with a program that preceded After Effects or anything like that, like doing compositing, and then we would print it back to film. And so I've been at the intersection of art and technology, and I continued on to get my MFA, my Master's in Fine Art. And so just so you all know, like the intersection of creativity and technology is sort of my sweet spot, and that's where all of this, how I sort of came to kind of keep studying this. The one other thing, and I will only talk about it a little bit today, but is that then in 2017, I bought my first crypto kitty. And that was some of the first NFTs. And that's what got me really involved in running the blockchain lab at Georgia State. And so I have, sort of a computational and creative sort of approach to things. And so that will play into what we're going to talk about a little bit today. But we'll go ahead and I'm going to do sort of, so the virtual is real. And this is me with some Magic Leap headset on. So like I said, I'm jointly appointed, and if you've ever been to the Creative Media Industries Institute at Georgia State, sort of a best kept secret in Atlanta, it's a 3-story virtual reality production studio that we interface with most of the film and television community that come here. But the degrees that we offer are game design and development and media entrepreneurship and innovation. Just so you all sort of know where, sort of where I live and play. Okay, and then also the business school. I'm doing my little slide thing. Okay, so, we all know change is inevitable. And so I just want to kind of make sure everybody has sort of a good mindset before we go into some weirder places. And feel free to ask questions as we go, okay? Everything in the real world will be recreated in the virtual world, and that's the metaverse. Some people call it a mirrored world. Some people call it, a digital twin. But we're going to look at how the real world is being replicated or reflected in the virtual world and sort of what that actually means. So we're moving into an age of cyber physical systems. so when you first see that, you probably think of like smart things, right? Like, so we're making regular objects become smart, like vacuum cleaners and you know, all the sensors in your house and your doorbells and all sorts of things are just becoming smarter. But so we're putting technology into, you know, IRL, in real life things, but we're also manifesting in real life things in virtual world. So there's this sort of ongoing communication of virtual and the real, or electric and, you know, and biological. And so we're just kind of continuing this sort of flippening, as I might say. Okay. So before we go forward, I really love this concept called leadering, and it's from a woman named Nancy Giordano, and I'm just going to say a few of her sort of concepts, but one is, you know, as we go into these really weird and you know, unique kind of total mindset changes, total, you know, upside down thinking, just, you know, go with me on some of this, but ask as many questions as you want, but wonder versus resist, navigate versus replicate, and most of things are going to be connected and not alone. So this is just, you know, this is just to prep you as we move forward. I'm going to kind of come back to some of this later. So the metaverse. So sometimes, you know, there's a lot of different ways that people perceive the metaverse, talk about the metaverse. It is not defined. It is being defined. Are we there yet? We're, you know, going to talk about that. But, you know, so some people think of a digital twin, and this is, here is a city that's the twin of an actual city, and it's being, so this is a virtual version of a city that can then take the data of something like traffic and then simulate what traffic would look like in this space. And then you could simulate, oh, what would happen if we had 20% more traffic? Or if we put all the cars, you know, going one way or the other, you know, how much heat is distributed, all sorts of things about how you can kind of start to, what I say, take data out of the database and make it into a visualization. So we'll go more into that. And then the digital twin of the self, the avatar. This is Liam Neeson. And of course, a lot of this starts, you know, in the military and then into entertainment. And then it comes to the rest of us. So when people make films, you have to sometimes make an approximation of somebody, especially if you're going to do special effects of any sort. So this is just us starting to look down what a digital twin might be. So again, everything in the real world is being recreated in the virtual world, but, you know, in the virtual world, what is special? You know, we're all learning what's special and what's unique and in that space. You know, gravity does not apply. Building permits do not apply. And think of all the things that don't apply in a virtual world. But there's unique special things about the virtual world, and of course there's unique special things about the real world. So before, I just want to kind of untangle this sort of confusion that a lot of people hear. You probably hear about Web3, you hear about Metaverse, you hear about blockchain and augmented and virtual reality and 3D. And first of all, you know, don't get too worried about all the nomenclature. It is a new language, so it's almost like trying to learn, you know, Spanish or something. So you just kind of keep getting yourself introduced to the concepts. But the sort of a bigger concept is Web3 is kind of considered sort of the next instantiation of the internet, and Metaverse is a component of that. Blockchain is sort of the pay rails of that. And augmented and virtual reality and 3D are sort of subsets of the metaverse. But we're going to talk mostly about the metaverse today, and we'll tease some of this stuff out a little bit. Okay, so the promise.
Some people say the metaverse will only be virtual. One day, this lecture hall will be made of code. And though they're virtual students, what they'll learn together is real. A surgeon will be able to practice as many times as needed in the metaverse before laying her hands on a real patient. These students aren't really back in 32 BCE, but they can still watch Mark Antony debate in ancient Rome. The metaverse may be virtual, but the impact will be real.
Okay. So that was the promise, but this is what we have. So this is Minecraft, and we're going to talk a lot about young people today. So be prepared. So many of you all have probably seen this by the young people in your lives, and this is Minecraft, and it's a gaming sandbox virtual world platform that people can get on and build with these sort of pixelated, like you do Legos, but that you can build worlds. You can build a room, you can build an avatar, you can build functioning, microcomputers. It's really amazing. But that's just a virtual world game. And we're not to that sort of meta promise. And just so you all know, Meta or Facebook is not the metaverse. It's just a version, it's just a company that has a name called Meta that believes in the metaverse. Okay, but just to back it up, the metaverse is a term that was coined by Neil Stephenson in a book called Snow Crash. I can't remember what year it came out, but I think it's in the 60s. So the term has been around for a very long time, and people have been working in this technology for a very long time. So the Quest headsets that you see over here, these are 30 years in the making. Not necessarily by Meta, but by other people, right? Okay, but avatars now are getting more realistic. This is my friend Kadeen James, who runs a virtual fashion agency, and we're going to talk a lot about her. She also works for Accenture in London. So we're not going to go too much into this, but in order to create the metaverse, a lot of in the Web3, a lot of different technologies are enabling us to go to the next iteration of the internet. So if we didn't have 5G and cloud and really fast networks, and if we didn't have artificial intelligence to sort of render new things very quickly and respond to things very quickly, and then the pay rails of this sort of Web3 blockchains, it would be harder to have this sort of next Web3, instantiation of the web. So just to kind of go over this, Web 1 connected us to information. We're now in Web 2, which is connecting us to each other. And we're sort of slowly transitioning to Web 3, which will connect people, places, and things. So everything will be connected. So that's why Internet of Things matters. Things are connected to us and our environments, et cetera. Yeah, so built on blockchain technology, we'll save a little bit for later, emphasizes decentralization and individual ownership of data. And there are many different visions of the future, and we're all building it now. So your participation and your versions of it and the things that you all do are really important. And the more diverse backgrounds, perspectives, people, nations that are involved, the more we'll hopefully avoid as many mistakes as we did in creating the current the Web 2 that we have now. So Matthew Ball is considered sort of one of the preeminent sort of thinkers about the metaverse. And I just like to just kind of say what he describes the metaverse as. He just came out with a book this month or last month that sort of is really deep and pretty heavy technical. So and historical. It's very interesting, but you don't have to read it if you don't want. But if you're into that, that's great. But it's a massively scaled interoperable network of real-time rendered 3D worlds that can be experienced synchronously and persistently, so they're always on. Eventually, unlimited number of users, because it's not that right now, with a sense of presence, which I hope you all will get when you try some of these experiences that we have, with a continuity of data, identity, etc. The data part is the part where we're going to talk a little bit later about where you own your own data and you carry your own data with you, as opposed to data being in stored in other locations. Okay, but let's just kind of go into one sort of, story or a sort of example. So like I said, we're going to talk about youth. So 60% of Gen Z and 62% of millennials think that how you present yourself online is more important than IRL in real life. So that's why you see people at, kids at a restaurant or out at a park, and they're looking a fool, but they don't care because they're getting the good shot that's going to go up on Instagram, that's going to go on TikTok. They don't care that they look foolish because they're going to look really killer on their preferred platforms, their preferred networks, their preferred societies. Okay, so let's just sort of dissect that. So my son just went off to college this past year, and I asked him to pack for school. And this is what he came down with. It was this suitcase. Okay, well, it's pretty funny, but how many pairs of shoes do we all actually need? So the utility of the shoe is to keep our feet warm and to keep our soles of our feet not injured, right? But you don't really need all of these shoes. But this is saying a lot. You can kind of tell a little bit about what my son is trying to express about himself, who he's trying to attract to be part of his tribe or his group or his mate. And so, shoes matter, right? In more ways than we realize. Okay, so this is Ferocious, and he is a digital artist, and he painted paintings like this, but then he started to make these fake shoes, and he would put his paintings on the shoes. But in early 2021, he decided to make, what we call digital sneakers that your avatar could wear. All right. Here are other things that you can get for your avatar. This is the avatar shop. I think this is for Roblox. So these are things that make you look better, but not play better, right? Just look better. Somebody else was also onto this. And now, so Gucci makes shoes that you can never wear, but your avatar can. And they have gone deeper and deeper into this space. Nike this year bought the company Artifact. Artifact makes only digital sneakers and for the avatar, and Nike bought them. And I think it's hysterical that, you can tell this is a young brand because it doesn't have vowels in it. And so this avatar, and this is a Ready Player Me, which we have set up where you all can make your own avatar today if you would like. But he has on some digital sneakers of some sort, and Nike bought this company. But then other people got in on the game, and not only are they making digital sneakers, but they're making phygital sneakers. Phygital sneakers are when you buy a real pair of sneakers, and with it comes a correlating digital pair of sneakers for your avatar. So you can wear the sneakers and your avatar can wear the sneakers. And they're typically connected by some kind of either like a chip or some kind of thing that proves that your IRL sneakers are the real thing, right? And that's even a problem, in the real world with knockoffs of handbags and sneakers, etc. But so the digital sneakers are added to the blockchain to prove ownership of who owns that digital item. We're going to go into that a little bit later now, but just as you have to prove that you own the in real world sneakers, you also have to prove that you own the digital sneakers. And then they went a little further and they just came out with this sweatshirt. So this sweatshirt has a QR code, so each is unique. And you get the in real life sweatshirt, but you also get the digital version of the sweatshirt. But what's unique is the digital version of the sweatshirt has wings and has and then can be empowered by making your avatar fly or giving yourself new powers of something that, again, so this is where there's uniqueness to the virtual world that doesn't exist in the real world. And so these new, what are new and unique things that can happen in virtual worlds? And here's an avatar wearing the sweatshirt. Okay, yeah, and this is just showing you digital fashion is real and it's a thing. There are digital fashion shows. It's very, it's happening. So, when we're thinking about this, does this pixel make me look fat? It was something, so we can definitely, the digital twin is really the pixel and the atom. You can see the Minecraft as the pixel and, the brick or the Lego as the atom. So there's a sort of corollary to that. We use the terms, we're building the metaverse, all of that. But there are other components to this. The penny, which is how do we pay for these things? And the second, which is what is our labor in making these things? And that's where sort of this sort of blockchain idea gets into and the NFT, but hold that. Okay, so this is just Roblox. McDonald's, whether they like it or not, I don't know if this is a sanctioned McDonald's, but this isn't Roblox. This isn't Roblox. That's wrong. Sorry. This is VR chat. So there is a person that is or a person. Okay, there's an avatar, and here's the McDonald's. But we were thinking about this earlier. Like, what could you do with food in the metaverse? Your body doesn't need to sleep. It doesn't need to rest. It doesn't need, I guess we're dressing it. You really don't have to dress it if you didn't want to. Well, I don't even want to go there, but but it doesn't need to eat, right? But we were thinking, like, what could you do at a McDonald's or at a Subway in the virtual world? Well, what if you made the perfect sandwich? Because like your version of 10 squirts of or your version of a lot of mayonnaise might be 10 squirts, and the person making your sandwich might think that 2 squirts is correct. So you can go make that sandwich, and then in real life it could be, ready for you. So that's far-fetched. It's not actually happening now, but just that's something to think about. Okay, so I'm going to show you this, particularly for Miller Zell and kind of what I think that they do. Okay, so this is me just screen recording, jumping into VR chat. I don't like my avatar. I pick a different one. But, every time you walk into a store or to a new place, just like this, you need signage. You need to know what to do. You need to know, what your options are. And this is pretty bad interface right now. It's a pretty, and this is the main, when you go to VR chat, this is one of the first places that you go before you go into other virtual worlds. But I was just thinking about all the things that, Tina was talking about. When you get dropped into a new world, or when you enter the Home Depot or the Lowe's or whatever, you've got to know, what am I supposed to do here? It's a new world in a certain way. So yeah, so these are things to ask yourselves as you go forward, and just kind of keep this kind of floating in your head. Yeah, so we'll just keep going. I just wanted to kind of prompt you with that. So there are a lot of digital fashion being sold, and I'm going to kind of go a little deeper into this. So some of the most popular are, trying to engage more deeply with your team. So fans like to do this. So just like in the real world, in the virtual world, on game day, you want your avatar to have on the Falcons shirt, right? And, again, you might not, but your children and young people in your lives do. And it really matters. And that's why they're spending a lot of your money on Robux and, all kinds of things. So a lot of, kids ask for those kinds of things more than they ask for the actual shirt. So Gucci has really gone deep into this. This is Roblox, and this is Miley Cyrus and Gucci. And you can buy Gucci bags, you can buy all kinds of stuff for your avatar. And Miley Cyrus, so this is really interesting. Like, this is Miley Cyrus's avatar, and she's kind of representing, her brand, her likeness, to Gucci. But I feel like these kinds of brands help you sort of see that this is real. And, start with small experiments. Like we saw the shoes at the beginning, and Gucci has been pushing deeper and deeper into the space. Okay, so now let's get into the blockchain. Okay, so Gucci bags are very expensive, and you need to make sure that it's real, right? And they need to make sure that they're scarce so that, you'll pay a lot of money for them, right? I think this is funny because you can't actually Xerox bread, but in the real world, in the virtual world, in the digital space, most everything that we do that is a file can be copied. But let's think about that. What does that mean? So at the end of your day today, when you prove what work you've done, it probably ends up in a file of some sort. Either you made HTML code, you made some JavaScript, you made a PDF or a PowerPoint or a beautiful spreadsheet or a photo, a video, a WAV file, an MOV file. So most of the work that we do is in a file. So, but right now, the way that we share those files is by making a copy. And that works out fine, until it's something that you didn't want to have copied, something that you want to have a single version of. And so when you see Gucci wanting to sell a bag to somebody in the metaverse, if they can just right click it and keep making copies of it, then what's the value, right? So it is the underlying technology that enabled digital currency to not be copied, which is Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin is the first. Blockchain is the technology that was instrumental in not allowing the double spend problem of money. Because if you have money, if you have a digital currency and you send it to somebody, but you keep a copy of it, then it has no value whatsoever. So it was blockchain that enabled the sharing of a digital currency. But now that's being applied to files, and that's the NFT. So as we build more things in the virtual world and sell more things in the virtual world, they need to be protected. And this is where blockchain and the blockchain pay rails come in. So putting something on the blockchain is like engraving it in stone, and it makes a permanent record. And so I'm not going to go too deep into all of that, but just something to, and don't get your head confused with all the different terminologies that are used. And I'm just going to give you sort of a, sort of three things to know. Cryptocurrencies are just digital currencies. So Bitcoin is a digital currency, Ethereum is a digital currency, it's just a digital currency. Blockchains are just public databases of transactions. So if I sell something to Josh and for a certain amount of money, maybe I make something, so it's proof of origination from me, it's proof that he paid for it and now he owns it, and proof that he paid for it, that is a public record. Now, what's inside what was put on the blockchain, like how much he paid for it, we can decide on whether we want to keep that encrypted or not. But basically, blockchains are just public records of transactions. And NFTs are just digital goods. So don't get all involved in all that, like how crazy, what is a non-fungible token and a fungible token and all that. Simple though, is that a dollar is fungible because you can exchange $1 for another dollar. A non-fungible token, like a painting, or even the sweatshirts that we saw, they can't be interchanged because they have a different QR code for each one. So it's non-fungible, not exchangeable. So most things in the world are non-fungible, because most of things that we do, things that we are not exchangeable. All right, I'm not going to go into the smart contract stuff. Okay, but I think this is funny. This looks like a digital drink, but this is a real drink. And I think it's very interesting because I think the digital world informed the Byte drink, which tastes like pixels. That's their slogan. I don't know. I've not tasted it, but that's what their slogan is, tastes like pixels. So this exists and you can get it at the grocery store, but you can also product place it in these virtual worlds. And then you can buy this. So I don't really know the whole story behind what you can do with the Byte in the metaverse, but one could see that you could drink this and get an extra life, or get more power, or I'm not really sure what, become a better member, or get membership or something like that. But I just think it's interesting, the combination of the physical and the digital. Okay, so this is a CryptoPunk. And so the CryptoPunk is one of the early NFTs. And what I think is interesting is, I have to read some of the story. Yeah. Okay, so Tiffany's allowed people who owned a CryptoPunk NFT to pay to buy another NFT that would allow you to get to get your special CryptoPunk, embedded with these beautiful jewels and, a full IRL piece of jewelry. And they sold like 250 for $12.5 million. So this matters to people, and this is real. And again, it might not matter to you, but it does matter to people. And the younger that you are, probably the more that this matters. And so, I think it's interesting to think about this Tiffany's CryptoPunk, but you all might have heard of the sale of the Beeple, the artist Beeple, who sold his first 5,000s for $69 million at a Christie's auction in early 2021. And so that might sound completely ludicrous to people, but the truth is, he was a digital artist who was paid work for hire all the time, but he watched all of his artworks go on to, make millions of dollars for lots of different, movies and, other entities. So the first 5,000 was sold for $6.69 million, but the first 5,000 was work that he did every single day for 13 years, because 5,000 days adds up to something like 13 years. And so when you break it down that way, the artworks were less than 100,000 each, and he's considered probably the most famous digital artist today. And other people are like, yeah, but art? Is that art? Well, art is what we define as art, and a lot of his work, if you go look at him, it's Beeple, B-E-E-P-L-E, is very meme oriented, but that's what's resonating with people now. And whether you like it or not, that's what's resonating. Trumpeting angels might have resonated with people, thousands, 500 years ago, but this is what resonates with, but Beeple is what resonates with people now. So it's just, I'm just trying to kind of get your mindset around, where other people's heads might be. Okay, so this is just, I'm just kind of showing you something kind of funny. This is my house. Okay. This is a digital twin of my house. So I'm just kind of showing you that this is doable today pretty easily. And the thing that's interesting is that I have this because, the artistic SketchUp rendering, the 3D drawing rendering had to happen before the house got built. So this is not a far stretch. We make most things digitally before we make them in real life now. So now the flippening can happen pretty easily. Oh, and this is just silly. Let's not play this. Okay, or okay. So here's another example of that. This is a smart city that's being proposed in downtown Atlanta. So you see there's the Atlanta, and I'm sorry, the resolution's not very good, but you get the point here. There's the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. This does not exist, but this allows you to really see and understand what this might actually become way before you build it, way before somebody invests in it, way before somebody decides to move in. You can get a very solid idea. And if you had a headset on, you can go in and walk through, or even if I just actually gave you the file, you can navigate through this in, with your first person perspective and sort of see what it looks like and get a feel for it. So, yeah. Oh yeah, we'll just play this quickly if it plays correctly. I think it might. So my student sort of is doing a tour. It's taking too long. Let's let it sit for yeah, move it a little further. Yeah. So this is my house that she did in a week. Okay, so she put these are assets that you can buy. This looks very similar, but it's not exactly, but still you're starting to get a feel. And this is something that we did, without too much energy and effort. Okay, so you start to get a feel for, virtual worlds. We're gonna skip this. Yeah, we'll skip that. We'll skip this too. That's volumetric capture. We'll skip this. Oh well, okay, we'll play. I think this is pretty good. No, it's okay. Let's play a little bit.
There is a truly remarkable fact. After 2.6 million years on Earth, humans have begun to build a completely alternate universe. Welcome to the Metaverse, the internet's 3D iteration. For now, limited to a few games and platforms, but developers think. Okay, so,
just I'll give you some resources afterwards so that you can look through a lot of this stuff. Again, this is basically what I already said earlier. Yeah, so really, I want to, just sort of finish this up with a few more slides and then open it up for questions, as many as you all want. But so what do you do? So yeah, this is great. Make small bets. This is this is coming, but you don't need to jump into it and make big decisions now. Start to make small bets, do small prototypes, just like I was showing about the house. What can you do? How might people engage in it? Again, prototype, experiment, meet the people where they are. Tina gave a great, sort of tip to that earlier. And if they're in Roblox or Minecraft or already on the web in some places, sort of start to see what you can do. Experience this yourself, because everybody's coming from a totally different place, and you'll have lots of really interesting ideas when you start to kind of see what is available and see how it feels to you, right? Keep an eye on progress, because it's all changing and happening very fast. And look at your own industry and see what other people are doing and steal like an artist. I definitely learn from others, because people are making all kinds of experiments right now every day. I can't even believe what new things I discover. So yeah, and no, we'll skip that. Yeah, so this is another guy who talks about the metaverse a great deal, and it's there's only one metaverse. This is the hope. This is not fully here yet. The hope is that there's only one metaverse. That the metaverse is for everyone. Nobody, not even Facebook, controls the metaverse. The metaverse is open. It's hardware independent. That means you don't, so like, is it AR, is it VR? It's there, and you can interface it with an augmented reality sort of approach, with a VR headset, with web VR, which is like where you just pull up on your web browser and can navigate just with your keys, with your mobile phone. So it doesn't mean you have to have a headset to engage in this. The metaverse is a network, meaning it's all about being connected. It's not about being sort of isolated and alone. And the metaverse is sort of the next iteration of the internet. So we're already there. You already know, you've already delved in some of this. I mean, you've done Zoom. You're already kind of halfway getting there. So yeah, that's that. So now I'd love to hear your ideas and questions.
So backing up in terms of like the owning the asset.
Mm-hmm.
So today you can't like sell, let's say I bought the virtual Gucci shoes.
Mm-hmm.
I can't sell it to somebody else, another avatar of the metaverse. Like once I own it, I own it forever.
No, this is, so the beauty of an NFT, because they are selling the Gucci shoes as NFTs. So the beauty of that is that you bought the shoes from Gucci, right? And you own them and you can wear them. Where you can wear them is still a little tenuous. Right now, you can buy them in Roblox. So if they are an NFT, if you bought it only in the Roblox ecosystem, that's one thing. But let's just go with that you bought them, a blockchain version, an NFT version of the sneakers. So it shows you bought them and this day, and you own them. So, in a year later, you want to sell them. I want to buy them from you. And so you can sell them to me. You can set the price, whatever you want the price to be. And on top of that, Gucci could have in its smart contract, which is the programmable money, the sort of what's going to happen, they could say that they get 5% of all the sales. So the secondary sales, so artists love this. But on top of that, Gucci could also say, and 2% is going to go to the Metaverse Academy, where we teach, people who don't have access how to get access to the metaverse, or some charity or something like that. So that's the killer aspect of the NFT and programmable money. So, but there's two sort of complexities to that. Roblox is its own just virtual world game. that is its own closed ecosystem at the moment. People are working on trying to figure out composability of these different worlds and sort of exchangeability in these different worlds. That hasn't completely happened yet, but that's where things are going. So the hope is that you could sell those, but if it's just in Roblox, maybe not yet. Yeah. Other questions? Yeah.
There are some of the brands that you mentioned that are already in the metaverse, like Gucci and Nike, makes sense. What about brands that are just hopping in there that might not quite be ready, and they're just sort of doing it because they think it's what they should be doing right now? Like, how are they perceived out in the metaverse?
Well, you know, so I did hear about a pretty Chevy did something, and this is sort of Web3 sort of based, but they wanted to sell a really beautiful drawing of a new car that they were selling as an NFT. And if you bought this drawing of this NFT, you got a car with it. Okay, but the problem is that the cost of this drawing was more than the car, way more than the car actually was. And so nobody even bid on the thing. And so that's where they just sort of tried something without really thinking through what the possibilities are, and try not to be that person. But guess what? Those kinds of things are going to happen, right? We you know, and that really, it's no skin off of their back except for a little bit of embarrassment, because, you know, they had the drawing, it didn't sell. Okay, so just sort of tuck that under the rug and move on. But you know, but yeah, you don't want to, again, you don't want to make, okay, banks. I have seen people who've made an exact replica of a bank, and then the beautiful rendering of the lobby. Most people don't want to go to the bank in the first place, and they definitely don't need to go sit in the lobby. So you've got to give them something to do. And this is where it gets into sort of a little bit of gamification. And so this is, you know, meeting people where they are. So, you know, you really have to understand the essence of what your brand is and understand who the customers are that you're trying to attract. And then, you know, start to think of a Venn diagram about where could be something that might be a possibility. I don't think that ignoring these whole new realms is a really great idea, but I also don't think that just jumping in headlong and just, you know, trying everything and spending a bunch of money building a beautiful rendering of your corporate headquarters, you know, but maybe your employees, you know, maybe through training. I was telling some of the folks earlier today, my son is home from college and he's got an internship, and his job this summer is he has a headset and he has a real feeling Glock and a real feeling taser, and he is doing quality assurance. So that's like where you kind of keep making sure that everything works properly, for a company called Axon, who's training all of the police to handle, you know, to de-escalate. And so they're de-escalation training. So think about, like, that's extreme, but so training is just like doing impossible or difficult or dangerous things before you actually get into that spot is an incredibly great way to use this technology. But you can imagine, like, learning how to drive a forklift before you, you know, drove a forklift. Delta uses all kinds of things in VR. They do tons of VR training. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Question about the process, and I'll use the Chipotle example. So earlier this year in April, they went into the metaverse. If you rolled enough virtual burritos, you could get real burritos, IRL. First time I've ever said that.
Good job. You're talking very well.
No trying to make it, what was the process for like a Chipotle? So for us, retail professionals.
Yeah.
If I were going to do that, do I, like you mentioned, create a 3D rendering of my store? Do I reach out to a Roblox? Like, how do you actually integrate your brand?
Yeah, so that's interesting. So there's the Roblox, there's the Decentraland. So you sort of pick where you think your clientele is. So it's going to take some research to kind of understand that. Let's just say it's in Roblox, right? And you also sort of need to look at what the total cost of building it will be. Roblox is going to be easier because it's meant to build within those spaces. Building full virtual worlds with game engines like Unreal and Unity is harder, and then you still have to have a platform to do this. So really trying to kind of understand where your your constituents might be is an important thing. And then also I think that playing is really an important part of especially younger customers, but you're not going to get me to roll 10, I love all this stuff, but I'm still not going to roll 10 burritos to get a free burrito. I'm just going to go buy a burrito. but that a 12-year-old might feel very differently, right? So, you really have to understand that. But yeah, so that's a really great question. Understanding all of the platforms that are out there. And I just want to kind of mention again, because we've talked about Roblox and because so currently Web 2 is where you log on to a place. You log on to Facebook, you log on to Fortnite, you log on to Roblox, you log on to Minecraft. They hold all of your data and they hold all of your information, and you have to log in, and then you can do the thing in there, but everything stays in that ecosystem. And then when you log out, you're out. They keep, and if they decide that you're unsavory for some reason, then you can't get back all the burritos that you rolled, and you can't get back all the, super cool, avatar hats and shoes that you got. So the promise of Web3 is that there'll be open worlds where you can build in it, and your customers and clients can come and do the thing and then walk away with it. And that's why I had to mention sort of these ideas of blockchain and NFTs and owning your own data. Because the idea is that you walk around with your own data, and then you let the brand have access to certain parts of your data, as opposed to the opposite. So that's a total flip.
Sorry, quick follow-up. So I guess where we're going is it advised that we begin kind of staffing our teams to have creatives internally that are able to build this stuff, so we can go directly to a Roblox with assets.
Right.
Instead of, because otherwise, do they create them for you or?
Right. Well, so I would start with sort of one person to kind of research that for you and kind of think it through for you and kind of get your head around some of that. And then, so there are canned assets, and then there are special branded assets. So again, when you go to make a Ready Player Me avatar, you can make that for free, and you get a choice of 10 colors of pants, a couple of skirts, and black shoes, and then but if you want to go beyond that and have custom of avatar and custom clothing, that's where you start to pay. But no, those are really good questions, and I think that I would start small, get somebody to start to research, but I also think two things. One is with the sort of Web3 sort of assumes that the customers and clients want to be a deeper part of your brand, and they want to help participate in building the worlds and building the communities and building the experience, or at least giving some feedback. But also within your own team, there's probably more knowledge about this stuff in different pockets than you actually realize. So that's another place to kind of cull from.
What we were talking about earlier, where our brand really needs to know their essence and how consumers want to engage with them before you enter into the metaverse, because then we have the mishaps of just building your corporate headquarters in the metaverse,
right?
And or a bank branch without a reason for that. And so I love that when you were talking about a brand needing to know their essence before they enter in.
Yeah, and so yeah, you just sort of keep thinking about what's your why, and then it might shift as you move into these a more digitized space, but you still need to kind of make sure you're on brand and on point. And Tina uses the term omni-channel, or another touch point, and that's kind of what this is. And it just might have it start off small, and don't go hire a full team at this. That would not be my advice right now. As much as I would love for you to hire all these incredible students that I have, I would hold off on that. Yeah. Other just confusion or things that are popping into your head. Yeah.
I get games and I get training, but what are some of the more successful ways you've seen that people have been converted to engage in the metaverse outside of those environments? Like outside of, my kids are all Roblox and Rocket League and Fortnite all the time, you get it, right? But if you were to bring in a millennial or an Xer who isn't already participating in that space, where have you seen successful conversion?
Yeah, I've seen small kinds of, things where, let's see, what's the most successful? I don't know, like Netflix is doing like The Gray Man, and they're doing that in Decentraland. And so they've, and it might be for a small group of people, a pretty deep diver group of people that are, they go onto Decentraland and they have to go through a maze, and then they get to this, I don't know the story because I haven't really seen it, but they get to, and then they get to see a secret room. And so I see sort of more small bets. I don't see like massive, success yet, right? And I don't know if that we will quite yet. I think everybody's just sort of trying to sort of figure it out. Fashion is for sure definitely making lots of great sort of headway into the space. So that would be, to me, the most successful, is all tons of fashion stuff going on. Yeah.
Fashion, I would think, also go into sporting.
Yeah, sporting. Definitely. Ticketing. I taught a Web3 class this past Maymester with a guy who built a ticketing system on the blockchain and sold it to Ticketmaster. And so ticketing is a huge thing, because you can say, back to like, can I sell, if you bought the ticket to the Falcons and then you sold it to me, they can have all kinds of program, constraints around that, which is your wallet can only buy 10 tickets. You can only upsell it for 20%. Right? And then it's also guaranteed, once it's on the blockchain, that I now have the ticket. Sports is definitely, sports kind of coming from the gaming space. Wimbledon has done a bunch of stuff with, whole metaverse tennis things, and then it's games, but it's kind of in the metaverse because it's open and you can walk around and see the whole world, and you can buy things, of course. Those are some things.
How does licensing work with like the digital assets? So I think about like the Mercedes-Benz, right? It's a landmark in Atlanta. So someone goes and creates that. Is there like licensing like those type of buildings or landmarks? Is a part of this, or? So
I think that all the same rules apply. So I don't really know all of the licensing and IP of putting the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in the virtual world. I know that there's actually it's tonight. Yeah, there's a place called the Atlanta Blockchain Center, and a woman named Joanna Holmes, who's an IP lawyer. She delves in a lot of this kind of stuff, but I don't know exactly what would happen with that, and how representative it is versus like if it's just the Atlanta sky scene versus, you're letting people go into the Mercedes-Benz Stadium and, I don't know, spray paint graffiti all over it. And is it on brand or is it not on brand? That's a great question. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do we have any information or is anyone paying attention to like environmental impact of what's happening? I know there's obviously things happening with Bitcoin being pretty impactful. Right. How is that related to the metaverse?
So I think that I don't think that the metaverse is and the rendering of all of that. If you read this Matthew Ball book, he really goes into kind of how to be efficient with the different worlds. So even in games, like if this is my view and I'm an avatar and you all are the metaverse, okay, it will render my viewpoint, but it won't render that until I turn over there. So there's a lot of efficiencies in all of that, and then you all will disappear and it'll go there. So even though we said it's persistent, the data is persistent, but the visualization is not necessarily so. And then the cryptocurrency, because the blockchains will be the rails, the pay rails for all of this. You all probably have heard that Ethereum is moving from a proof of work to a proof of stake. So proof of work is where you're hearing all of the carbon footprint and how much the mining is really taking a ton of something's so it's the Bitcoin mining specifically that is really environmentally unfriendly, but most of the other currencies are attempting to move to something that's called proof of stake that does not require nearly the amount of, electricity. So yeah, and compute power. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe kind of building up
mm-hmm.
that theme a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like when Web 2.0 started, I think most of us couldn't have anticipated some of the negative consequences
mm-hmm.
of the social connections that we now get to live with,
mm-hmm.
right? So do you foresee any specific threats that Web 3.0 presents that we should be mindful of?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just rife with threats and I still think it's worth doing, but I still think that regulation, trying to figure out what the biases are before we, build the thing. We have a lot to learn from, and lots of universities are doing research in this. Most bigger corporations do tons of this kind of thing. We're doing some research for Facebook on equity and inclusion in, on Facebook and on Meta. They put a lot of, money into that kind of research. I think that everything that happened in the internet will or has the potential threat to happen in the next instantiation. We're better informed. Will we make the right choices? That's to be seen. But I do think that we're armed at least with knowledge of how to not mess things up as much. But no, it's right. There's fraud. There's scams. There's inappropriate behavior. All of that. But that's everywhere. So yeah. Yeah. We can't end on that. Yeah. Oh.
What do you think is the ultimate sort of, I guess in the opposite direction? Like
Mm-hmm.
we have an opportunity to create a better
Mm-hmm.
experience,
Mm-hmm.
a more inclusive experience.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what do you think the keys to doing that?
Well, I'm going to answer a big question and then I'm going to come back. One of the things that I think is happening is that we want to communicate and connect as humans, right? And participate. And I mean, I think that it's like we're getting closer to our imaginations being sort of getting into each other's heads in our imaginations in a more realistic way. So we can communicate better than these sort of awkward words and, 2D pictures. So I think that is a really beautiful and exciting, possibility that's happening. And this is very like sort of ridiculously philosophical or maybe silly, but I think that we're staring at these screens kind of like looking into the metaverse where we want to go, so I kept thinking that children would look at their screens less, they look at them more, so we want to go there, but we need to build a beautiful, equitable, delightful place. And, there might be sort of oases and sort of walled gardens. So maybe you go into a place and it's got all the rules that sort of fit with what your version. And then again, we get into walled gardens and then we get into who's in and who's out. But still, we can't all just hold hands and get along. But we can have some small places where we sort of experiment with how we do that. And so I don't know the exact answer.
You can touch on the accessibility too, that's being considered, and that it's device agnostic and there's more.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that, just virtual reality alone is people who are in hospitals and hospital beds and able to I don't think that we're going to ever be like just in a headset. I think that we're going to enhance our real world with layers of information. So like right now, so actually enhancing our real world is also really one of the things that we really want to do more, which is maybe I could look out and see like all the different places that you all have ever worked before. And that would help me kind of understand more about you and make the room even more interesting, right? So there's that. And then, but yeah, and so like putting on a headset might just be a break or a vacation or a small period of time. But those worlds are out there and persistent. So yeah, accessibility for, people who can't move around, but that can kind of get the feeling for doing things. People use it for empathy. So there's like, in someone else's shoes, you can completely do that. And I've seen some unbelievable stuff with a woman named Noni De La Pina, who does like, she had this one where this guy, basically she took the audio and recreated the scene where this guy comes out as gay amongst his, conservative family, and they reject him. And you are right there. Oh, it is just so intense. It's really different than watching a movie, And so being able to be in these spaces is, so as speaking of a bank, we did one for Santander Bank, and I don't know, they were somehow trying to raise the awareness of people who are homeless but still have jobs. And so we created this scenario where it's a woman that lives in her car, and it's actually augmented reality. So you pull up your phone and the car is there, and then you see the person kind of get out of the car and live their lives, like trying to like navigate through the car. So there's a lot of really interesting things that can be done. And that's really more virtual reality than just metaverse, but still the pulling all this stuff together is what's interesting. Yeah. Other ideas, or should we play around in the?
We should play around.
Should we play around? We have
a couple of housekeeping things. I wanted to. Oh, did you have something else?
No. I was just going to say we have Beat Saber and create your own avatar.
Over the last year and a half, a lot of us who work in offices.
Oh yeah.
Over the last year and a half,
Don't. That's.
A lot of us who work in offices have gone remote, and while I miss seeing the people I work with,
It's Zuck. And speaking of Mark Zuckerberg, I highly recommend that you all watch the. We didn't get to the screen with all the stuff on it. Do you mind jumping through? There's one that just has just take a photo of it because it's not organized very well. Yeah, go back. That one, yeah.
That one,
This sort of gives you some things to do if you want to take a picture of it, or we can send it out to you all. But it's just make your own, some different podcast and things. But the other one is Lex Friedman interviewing Mark Zuckerberg for 2 hours is very interesting. and answers a lot of this stuff, and or at least his perspective. Yeah.
So thank you guys for coming today. It was great to have you here and to get versed in the metaverse. We have some food in real life over there. I recommend the Nutella Puffs. You don't need any Bitcoin to buy them, just go ahead. And back there, as Elizabeth was talking about, there's some demos. I encourage you to create an avatar, play some games, just put some headsets on and really feel what it's like to be there. One parting thought I did want to leave everybody with, and it's kind of along some of the questioning that we got, is sometimes the question isn't different, but there's the context is. So when thinking about your brand and how to go into a different, and today we're talking about the metaverse, it might be something different 10 years from now, which is why would someone want to engage with your brand? And if you can answer that question, then you can start to understand how to create that experience, right? So it's less about, and even for us, we don't start with the building, we start with the why. And I think Elizabeth talked about that, is what is your why for being as a company? And then how do I create an experience around that that's engaging for someone, and think about it less as a transaction and more as an experience, much like we're doing in our retail spaces today. So please enjoy food, please enjoy fun, and thank you again for being here.